Hello, everybody. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I am Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic movie review. A couple of videos back, I did a movie review video on 1985's Code of Silence as a tribute to the American icon Chuck Norris. It's been about a month now since his passing, and since I talked about wanting to do a top 10 Chuck Norris movies list, I started thinking, I'm not really an authority on Chuck Norris movies. I have a few of his movies. I've seen a few, as you can tell. I know some, but he has a lot of movies. And so, I thought in order to do a proper top 10, I need to go down the filmography and look up as many as I can. And so, I watched a bunch. Good Guys Wear Black, The Octagon, An Eye for an Eye, Hero and the Terror, The Delta Force, The Hitman. It goes on and on. Chuck Norris made an insane amount of movies. Forced Vengeance and, of course, Missing in Action. The more Chuck Norris movies I watched, the more I began to realize what I have been missing out on because I'm a big lover and a big fan of so bad they're good kinds of movies. And a lot of Chuck Norris movies are in that category, and it's kind of awesome. If any of you out there are Chuck Norris fans and you have a list of your own, put it in the comment section. I always enjoy checking that kind of stuff out as a fan of movies myself. But yeah, with all that said, gonna get started with my top 10 Chuck Norris movies. Number 10, Delta Force 2, The Colombian Connection. I think this one's better than the first Delta Force. I like Billy Drago as the villain. As canon films, it's not one of the better canon films. It's not one of the worst ones either. It has, its silly moments, but it's actually pretty competently made for the most part. What messes it up for me are moments where you see the stuntman's face a few too many times when, it could easily be shot a different way or something, but it doesn't matter. There are enough awesome Chuck Norris moments in there, like a scene where he's just taking his frustration out on, a bunch of guys as they're standing around waiting to get their asses whooped by him. That's a pretty fun moment. Fun moments, some aerial stuff, him dangling on a rope, or some really cool, crazy stuff like Chuck Norris dodging a missile. There's some crazy action in this one. So, yeah, this one is number 10. It's a fun one. Number 9, A Force of One from 1979. Admittedly, the plot of this movie is ridiculous, but we don't watch these movies for the plot. We watch them to see Chuck Norris roundhouse somebody in the face. And so, if you want that, you get that. But in this movie, you got the police that, have trouble solving a crime. There's a killer out there. And so, what do? Of course, you got to get Chuck Norris on the case because he's a karate master. Surely he can help figure out who's killing these people. And so, yeah, the plot is silly, but doesn't matter. It's just Chuck Norris playing detective, Mr. Karate Master, detective guy who is the only one who can sense out the killer in the darkness, who he can identify by those eyes, the eyes of a killer. Number 8, Breaker Breaker. I enjoy a fun 1970s trucker flick, so you take that and you combine it with a Chuck Norris flick, you know you're in for a fun time. You got sweet Chuck Norris roundhouse action, you got those jump kicks to the face. When people fall down and hit the ground in the dirt, it looks like they're hitting the ground hard. That's what I love about these old movies. Nothing looks like it's being faked when it comes to those falls. You can't fake that. That was the good old days when people used to fight for reals in movies. No, they weren't fighting for reals, but still fun action. You got trucker action, trucks going through walls and buildings and that kind of thing, and Chuck just getting his revenge on some corrupt town sheriffs and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, fun movie. Number 7, Sidekicks, 1993. I gotta be honest, I love this movie. Maybe it's nostalgia because when I was about 10 years old, my mom took me to go see this in the theater since I was such a big fan of martial arts movies. I was watching all the Van Damme and Seagal stuff in the theaters at that time, and because I didn't know who Chuck Norris was and I seen some of his stuff, I wanted to go see this. And the trailers look like fun, and I like the Karate Kid. It's basically, like Karate Kid ripoff of a movie, but with Chuck Norris. And so Doesn't matter. The movie's still pretty damn good. Jonathan Brandis, the late Jonathan Brandis, does a good job in this movie, and his character is likable, sympathetic, and the idea of a kid, a teenager that daydreams about his action hero, and you just are with him when he's going off into those adventures and stuff. And each of those are like segments that are like of Chuck's movies, like his filmography. Like each one is like one of his movies. Like one of his daydreams is like The Hitman, or one is like Missing in Action, and they all have little nods to those movies. Number six, Braddock, Missing in Action 3. I could have put the first Missing in Action movie on this list. I could have put the second one, but nope. I'm going with a third one. That one is my favorite. You got my all-time favorite Chuck Norris line in this movie, where he's talking to this guy who is like an authority, and the guy's like, "I don't want you stepping on any toes." And Chuck just looks at him, great close up. He says, "I don't step on toes. I step on necks." Fucking love that shit. So yeah, this is a real fun one. It doesn't all take place in the jungle like the first two movies. This one kind of takes it out of the jungle, which is one of the things I like about it. But it still feels like a Missing in Action movie, and it has a bit of stakes in this one, since it has a some developments in the story of Colonel Braddock and stuff. And so, yeah, I like the villain in this one too. He's a little dipshit, foreign guy that usually it's always a foreign guy and all that. But yeah, fun action in this one. There isn't that many like cheesy moments that kind of weigh it down or make it unwatchable. And yeah, I really dig this one. Number five, Silent Rage from 1982. What I really dig about this one is it's not a conventional Chuck Norris flick. It's a movie that has Chuck Norris elements in it, like the fighting and stuff, but ultimately it's a movie that walks the line of also being a horror movie, because this is basically Chuck Norris versus Michael Myers without the mask. You got this guy that's going around killing people in serial killer type fashion. Starts out the beginning with him starting to attack his wife, all of a sudden snaps, and then before you know it, he's just basically Michael Myers, just no mask whatsoever, but just this killing machine that cannot be stopped no matter what happens. The guy just keeps coming back, in pure Myers fashion. So it may as well just be, the unofficial Halloween sequel. Number four, Invasion USA from 1985. This is basically if they took the premise of Red Dawn and said, all right, get rid of Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen. We're going to replace them with Chuck Norris, and we're going to make it even bigger when it comes to action, even crazier, cheesy as hell, but so much damn fun. You got tanks, you got explosions, you got gunfights, you got Chuck wielding Uzis and machine guns and great one-liners, and a villain that you can't wait to see his ass get whooped, and just insane over the top action to the point where it's on the corny side, on the cheesy side, but it's so much fun. It's so fucking entertaining, and ultimately it's a blast. It's one of the crazier canon films of the 80s when it comes to action flicks. Number three, Code of Silence from 1985. I have a review of this one for my channel if you want to check that out. But yeah, this is a good one with Chuck Norris as a Chicago cop who has trouble making friends in the department because he's an honest cop, which kind of messes things up every now and then when he needs backup, like when he gets himself in the middle of a mob war. And so, yeah, good premise in this one. You got a good script and some good Chuck Norris action. Great sequence on a train, and talk more in depth about it in the video I did for this. But yeah, it's a really good, solid, not just Chuck Norris movie, but action movie in general. Number two, Lone Wolf McQuade from 1983. If you're getting into martial arts movies or Chuck Norris movies, this one is a great place to start. Great Chuck Norris action with Chuck Norris as our title character, Texas Ranger J.J. McQuade. So you have a great hero for this, but what really puts it over the top into like the great category, not just the action, but you have a great villain in this one. You got David Carradine as Raleigh Wilkes. He is this martial arts guy who is like a real match for Chuck Norris, and so you have a rivalry that's kind of built up throughout the movie, and when they finally throw down, it's just so worth it. You get so many great little action moments and little beats here and there between the two actors that, when you get to the final act, it really pays off in a great way with a great fight. And I can't say enough about this one. I will eventually give this one, like a lot of these, give them their own reviews and their own videos. But yeah, Lone Wolf McQuade, this is where it's at right here. This is Chuck Norris at his finest. But there can only be one number one, and so my number one Chuck Norris film, for some people when they first saw it, it was The Way of the Dragon when I first saw this movie, and when I purchased this movie back in the day on VHS and now on Blu-ray, it is known to me as Return of the Dragon. 1972 film stars Bruce Lee, but you also have Chuck Norris in this baby, who has enough screen time to merit a viewing. Not just that, also the fight, the legendary fight between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris's character in this, Colt. Chuck Norris plays Colt, the American champion, and Bruce Lee is Tan Lung, and it's a fight in the Coliseum, and it's basically two titans of martial arts just going at it. I have a tremendous amount of love and nostalgia for this movie, not just because it's a great movie with an outstanding fight scene at the end between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, but because it represents a time when it kind of was the catalyst for me getting into martial arts movies in the first place. I just spilled water on myself. All right, that about wraps it up. Thank you very much for watching my top 10 best Chuck Norris movies list. I very much appreciate it. If you're into this kind of thing, if you're into movies, and if you like what you see, and if you're into the classics, a little water in my chin, sorry, go ahead and subscribe and go ahead, share, like, all that stuff. I appreciate that kind of thing. If you're a returning viewer, thank you for your support. Thank you for your views. It's always very much appreciated. Please don't forget to look out for the next classic movie review coming out soon. And I'll see you guys shortly. Everybody take care of each other. Till next time, peace out. God bless.